Nobody here today, I believe, personally, who's going to punch either the red or the green button doesn't want to stop suicide, doesn't want to stop domestic violence, and do what they can. But it makes no sense to me, and I tried to talk to people early on about this, as little as I could find out about it. It was kind of buried for a while. The why you would have an ex parte hearing and the person who's allegedly the problem doesn't get to come and talk at the time. The judge doesn't get to look at the person in the eye and have some kind of a feel for the person's mental state. And they said, well, because if you tell the person we're going to have a hearing, they might commit suicide or do something to somebody else. So they have so now under this bill, they will have the ex parte hearing, and then maybe somebody like the representative from the wine country or myself in our old life would be going to the door, knocking and saying, we want all your guns, and you have to turn them in within 24 hours. And then you tell them, here's the order, and here's because your wife or your sister or your partner did this, and the partner may be there, or your sister may be there, and that may create a lot of anger. I think that puts a more dangerous position. And the search, it says searching all guns that are under your control, searching for all guns under your control. That means you'd have to search the entire house. And I own several pistols and rifles, and I have some pretty small pistols, so if an officer was coming to my house to try to find my smallest pistol, they would have to literally tear into everything I own, looking everywhere except that mine are concentrated in a nice solid gun safe. But if I wanted to distribute them around the house, they would have a hard time finding them, and it would be really be a mess. And one other thing about the search, the Oregon Constitution is more restrictive on searches than the federal Constitution. So I don't know, I'm not an attorney, I don't know if we're going to stray across that line in this bill. And Madam Speaker, you will recall, I'm sure, last session, I worked with you and I worked with the majority leader to try to solve the problem of the so-called Charleston loophole issue. We created a bill. We came out with a compromise bill that seemed to satisfy enough people that 31 votes on this floor passed the bill. It went to the other side of the building, and I was delighted. I thought we were going to get it passed. And then I was told, yeah, you know, it's too confusing, is what I was told by a senator. And then other people told me that senator gave them different reasons. That bill was a good bill, and it died for no, in my opinion, no apparent reason. And it wasn't too confusing. This bill is too confusing. This bill is the confusing bill, not the bill we, this body, sent over to the Senate. I'm, as you can tell, and everybody else from even my tone here, was very unhappy about that. I worked hard to get that bill out. I came to the session this time and I was told there was going to be two bills. The Charleston loophole would be fixed, and we would have a good bill to defend, to help prevent suicide and defend domestic violence, which, again, like my good colleague from the wine country, I saw the aftermath of those things for 31 years. But we don't have that here. This bill is poorly written. It has problems. I was kind of looking through the things you could go down. History of threats and violence directed at another person, physical force by the respondent against another person, driving under the influence, evidence of an acquisition or attempt to buy a gun or knife in the last 6 months. That fits the description of a lot of young men I dealt with back in the day. But this bill doesn't solve the problem. It's a good idea. I mean, has a good motivation. It just doesn't get there. And for that reason, I'm going to be unable to vote for this bill today. And I wanted to be able to vote for a bill that would make our veterans especially, and just all of our citizens, safer from suicide, from gun violence, and especially the domestic violence that the good representative from Tigard talked about, the families, the women and their children. But this bill doesn't get there, and for that reason, I'll be a no today. And I thank you for your time, Madam Speaker and colleagues.